YouTube, Artichoke Dip here. Let's talk about solo board games. So I want to give a special shout out to my wife Gina, and she had saw this cool incense burner, and she just looked at it and it reminded her a lot of me, and she says she got this for me as a surprise gift. It really blew me away, and yeah, it's quite cool. So she's like, yeah, maybe you can use it with one of your videos. So I figured I would feature that with the game system I want to talk about called Runebound. Now this is a game system that I have had my eye on for quite a while, but you know, if you're like a lot of gamers out there, when you see a game system that's kind of pricey, you're kind of reluctant to jump in right away, because if you do get it and it's something that, how do I put this, it's not what you expected, normally at that point it's shelved, put on your shelf to collect dust, to either be sold in the local game shop or given away to a friend or whatever later on down the road. So for me, that was the way that I kind of felt about this game. And then what Amazon has recently been doing is they've had a massive clearance on a lot of their board games and other games. My guess is to clear their shelves out for the new outcoming products in time for the holidays. So anyways, I picked this up for about 30 bucks. Now it retails for 60, and I got it for roughly half of that, brand new, so I'm very happy. Now before I start this video, I have to say, if you like my video, feel free to crush that like button, and please subscribe. And when I upload a new video, you can hit the little bell icon, and you can get a notification on your mobile device or your computer or whatever saying, hey, Artichoke Dip has uploaded a brand new video. So we're going to do a review and a playthrough with this game to get you a little bit more familiar with Runebound. Now I know some of you guys out there, because I do talk about solo RPG and a lot, you know, that change to a board game. Well, I've turned a blind eye to board games for a while. And I've recently been getting into them and finding a lot of them that I really do enjoy that have RPG elements to them that are designed for a single or multiple players. Runebound is one of them. Now, this is the main core Runebound set for the game, for 3rd edition. It does not give you solo rules. Of course, you can play this solo very easily. You just have to tweak the rules very slightly. And the game demonstration I'm going to give here, that's what it's going to be, is for solo play, not for a large group. Because if I had a large group of people that I constantly played games with, RPG games with, I wouldn't have a solo RPG channel where I talk about gaming solo RPG. So, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Runebound. So Runebound is a very unique game. There are 6 heroes in which you can choose that they call characters. And to start the game out, you choose a character off of a little card like this, and it'll progress from there. Now, that word, card, one thing I just don't like, and I've said this in other videos, I don't like card games. And the reason why I don't like them is card games tend to be cluttery. You spend more time fidgeting with cards, trying to keep the piles organized, trying to keep the discard piles organized, and then, so that kind of turned me away. But to my surprise with this game, it actually, believe it or not, makes the overall environment and the game mechanics of this particular game even more interesting. So that was a surprise to me. Let's talk about the cards first of all. So in this set, you're going to get a lot of cards, and you're going to get a total of 8 of these. 6 of them which are your heroes, and 2 of them which are the main villains. Vorgesh, the Necromancer, which is one, and Marageth, the dragon, which is the other main villain of the game. And then you're going to get what I call the mini quest cards, and you're going to get decks like this. Now, of course, because there's two different villains, there's two different scenarios, and each villain has their own set of cards that you have to use with that villain. And there's 3 categories of mini quests to choose from, and those would be social, of course, combat or battle, and then exploration. The other cards that you get with this game system will be story cards, skill cards, and of course equipment cards, to where you can buy weapons and armor and gear and other things for your character. Now, along with the cards, the one thing I did, and it's one of the things I didn't like about this game system, and the changes that I did. So if you're thinking about picking this system up, maybe you already have the system, and like I said, maybe you're thinking about picking it up, do yourself a favor, get yourself some Ziploc snack bags. And I'm going to explain to you why. So when you receive it, you get this cool box. You open this cool box up, and I'm going to show you why I say this. And inside, when you first open it up, you get these 2 sheets of these game tokens, a bunch of cards, a game board, a couple of game books, and you get this really cool black and white photo of the game board in there with this one little area in here to put all this stuff into. Now, you could take all the pieces and throw them in there, but then you're going to spend quite a while sorting everything to even play the game. Me, I can't do that, and it would drive me absolutely bonkers. So what I did is I sorted everything with Ziploc baggies. I took this cardboard insert, flipped it around, and put it in this way. Now, by doing that, I have one side to put the dice and the minis and the character cards and all the tokens, and the other side I have put all the cards in, and then the rule books fit in nicely along with the game board, and everything fits nice and neat on my shelf, which I like. So let's get into the tokens, and the reason why I say you're going to want to get some Ziploc snack bags. So you're going to get equipment tokens. You're going to get lore tokens. You're also going to receive gold tokens. Then you're going to get quest tokens. And then you're going to get your character starting equipment tokens. And then you're going to get a bag of miniatures. Then you're going to get a bag of health counter tokens. And then you are going to receive a bag of your character sheets. And it's a lot of stuff. Oh, and I forgot, you're going to get a bag, because I already have them on the board, of these little tokens right here, which represent your mini quests on the board. So you can see why I like to sort everything and put it in the small Ziploc baggies that can be stored in a box. And for me, when I go to play it, everything's organized. I can pull it out and just put everything together and start playing, and not have to worry about sorting a bunch of this in order to do it. So with that part out of the way, what I love about this game is, unlike other type of board games, this game actually keeps a track time counter on it. And as you progress, because each character gets 3 turns per round. So when I play solo, now for the demonstration of this game, I'm only using 1 character. But when I played solo, I found the best was 3 characters. And in those turns, your characters get a lot of options that they can choose from to perform with those 3 turns. Now, they can move and try to use all 3 turns to move across the board to reach a mini quest or a main quest. They could also choose to heal if they wanted to. They could also choose to do a mini quest on one of their turns. They could choose to go to a town and do shopping to upgrade their characters, or they could choose to do what they call train, which is by using the skill cards to learn new skills. And like I said, the whole objective of this game is to beef your character up as quickly as you can before the time counter runs out, and at that point the main villain will start progressively moving towards a specific part on the map. If they reach that before they are defeated, at that point the villain wins the game. But if you can defeat the villain before they reach it, the characters win the game. So let's talk about the characters. They give you a pretty decent amount of characters and really cool detailed miniatures, as you can see, to choose from. And you could play Laurel of Bloodwood, which basically she's an elven ranger. Master Thorn, which will be a magic user, sorcerer, mage, whatever you want to call it. Lissa, which is a demi-human. She is a half-cat, half-human type of character. And by far, she is the most balanced character out of all of them in this game. You have Elder Mock, which is a orc shaman. You have Corbin, which is your dwarf fighter. And then, of course, you have your 2 villains, which is Vorgesh and Margath. So, and the last character card, which I didn't talk about, I will be using for this video demonstration, which will be Lord Hawthorne, which is the Viking warrior. So let's get a quick view of the characters and what you can expect when you see the character. So I'm going to get a little close to the camera here. So as you look at the character, this is their starting side of the character sheet. It's going to explain to you right here that they start with 3 gold, they start with 3 skill cards, they get 3 combat tokens to start with, and a brief view of their history. When the game starts, the card is flipped over, and at that point, it'll tell you that you have 3 terrain dice that you use to move. You have 9 health points before your character dies. Your maximum skill hand size is 3 cards. And then, of course, if you look right here, it gives you these attribute points. And these attribute points are your body, which is 3, so he can deal 3 points of damage. This one, let me go to my quick reference, is the mind. He has 1 point in mind, and he has 1 point in spirit, and spirit will be also used like mana and other game systems to represent the magical strength of your magic user. So, but for just a demonstration of this video, I'm going to use Lord Hawthorne. He's obviously a tank. He's just going to go in, the kind of character to go in, kick the door in, and, you know, kill everything and ask questions later. So, the cool thing about this game is how I like how it randomizes the movement. So unlike most board games, you make the decision as to where you move on the board. This doesn't really do that. How your movement works is you roll terrain dice. And on the terrain dice, they give you the option of hills, plains, forests, water areas, mountains, and then of course it's got what looks like a compass, which is a wild. In a wild, you can move any direction you want. So rolling the dice, you look at the picture on the dice, because it's not a number dice, it is a picture dice, and then you look at the terrain which your character is, and see how your character can progress across the map in order to reach the closest mini quest or a main story quest, which is very cool. And of course, you never know what you're going to get, because even in a mini quest, you got to draw a card, And the cards are so, every time you play, you would reshuffle the deck, so it's going to be different every single time you play. And of course, like I said, the first villain of the game, which is the scenario we're playing here, is Marigath the Dragon, and they have their own set of mini quest cards that go with them, and story cards with that villain. And later on today, I'm going to play Voragesh, the Necromancer, because I haven't played that one yet, and get into him with his own set of cards. So, with that being said and out of the way, I think at this point the best way to explain to you with the game, I'm going to point the camera down at the game board. And I'm going to play a few turns through so everybody can become more familiar with RuneQuest and what you can do. So let's do that and get started there. So as you can see on the game board right here at the top, these are the quests. There are a total of 6 story quests for the game. As we progress through the time tracker, we have this little icon that matches up with the story cards. And once the time tracker lands on it, we read the story card, and at that point, follow the instructions on the story card, placing it in sequence of which way that the quest progresses, whether it's the first one, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now there's a total of 8 quests per game in 6 spaces. So if we were to complete the first 2 of the 6, then at that point 2 more quests would go on the board. Now as the quests go on the board, a token representing the number of the quest and its location at that point is placed on the game board to where the characters can travel there and complete the conditions to get the quest items. Now, the main quest item in the game is what they call lore tokens. Now, how lore tokens work, the more lore tokens that your character has, the weaker the main villain becomes. As an example, Marigath the Dragon starts out with 15 life points, but for every single lore token that your character has, deducts 1 life point before the encounter begins, which is huge. So, as you can see, aside from trying to build your character up with equipment and skills, you also want to try to collect as many lore points as you can before you face the encounter. Now, every character as they start out on their starting page, on their starting side of the card, not starting page, it'll show you a little icon down here at the corner telling you where your character spawns in at. Mine spawns in at a castle, so mine is right here. So Lord Hawthorne is going to start out in Castle Thalos. I would now flip my card over. I have my combat tokens already pulled, they're elsewhere. And I'm going to give him his gold, which he starts out with 3 gold. And of course, 3 skill cards. So I'm going to put his gold with his character. And then I am going to draw 3 skill cards from the top. Now, I don't look at the skill cards because I haven't trained yet. So the 3 skill cards just go with my character, face down, in front of him. Now, like I said, every round has 3 turns, and out of those 3 turns, your character can perform many actions that you choose. They can train, they can go to a city and shop, they can move, or they can complete the mini quest. In order to complete the mini quest, it costs them 2 of their turns per round. Once the character completes the round, the time token advances to the next square, keeping track of the game time. So let's see where Lord Hawthorne can actually move to. So I've rolled a wild, a plains, and then a mountain or water terrain. Well, considering I don't have water or mountains around me, this dice is kind of useless, and that leaves me with a wild or a plains. I think what I'm going to do is burn up my wild, and I'm going to go one square over onto the exploration token on this board. I'm going to flip it over using my last 2 turns to show that it's been spent, draw a card, and read from the card. Goblins Raid. Goblins have been launching raids from within the Howling Valley. Use one of your turns to explore the Howling Valley. Okay, so now it'll explain in there exactly where the conditions that have to be met in order to complete the quest. Now, it's kind of cool because I drew this quest card and it's exactly the spot I'm on right now. So I can go ahead and I can resolve this quest. So now resolving the quest, I can choose to roll 1, 2, or 3 terrain dice. I'm going to roll all 3 and just see what happens. Okay, I have rolled 2 hills or 2 forests and a mountain and a water. So out of those 2, I can only use this, the mountain and the hills, disregarding this. So I go to number 2 and I find a secret goblin tunnel. I draw 1 combat card. So now I have drawn a combat card and I'm going to reveal it. And I meet up with a sorcerer. The sorcerer has 6 life points and he has some abilities which I'm going to explain before we actually get into the combat. So combat in this game is fairly simple, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. They use tokens rather than dice. And let me zoom in a little bit so we can all see the tokens a little better. Okay. Now, the enemies here are pretty overpowered, actually. And as your character grows and gets more skills and more equipment, the battlefield, as you would say, does even out. But as a starting out character, most of the enemies you are going to meet are going to be pretty brutal. Really brutal. And I'll explain to you why that is. Now, they start out with a total of 5 tokens. And if you remember, all characters only start out with 3 battle tokens. All enemies start out with 5. When the time track reaches, as they put it, Act 2, so there's 2 sides to the time track marker. Once you go through all the time tracks on the first side, you flip the token over to 2. Once it reaches 2, at that point, the enemies become stronger. And then they get an extra token that they're allowed to use in the battle, which gives them 2 times their power, which is really, really, really uber just ridiculous power. But let's talk about the symbols and let's talk about the game and how to use them. So reading the, as they call it, the ruins are pretty simple. You throw that down there, and as you can see, we have a skull, which will inflict 1 damage, and then of course it's got a smaller little symbol on the other side telling you what's on the other side. So if I was to flip it over, we have what looks like this wing. And the wing is called Use Agility. And when you decide to use the agility, at that time, you can choose to flip another token over to what you would want. So by taking this off the board using the ability, this token at that point would flip over to the other side for you to use. Now, of course, there are many other symbols that are used on the tokens. This one being a surge ability. So all Characters and encounters that you encounter have a special ability that you have to pay a surge for. Once that surge is paid, at that point they can carry it out. For example, the sorcerer that I have here. He can pay one of these surges and remove all of your foes, and speaking of foes, we'd be talking about characters, remove all of their magic tokens from their combat round, which would be really horrible to do, especially if you're a magic user. Now the other token that the enemies have that the characters don't have is this token right here, which means it doubles the power. So at that point, if I had a skull and this, I can put the skull on top of that token, at that point doubling the power, so now I would do 2 points of damage instead of 1. And the last symbol on the token, which is a shield for defense to block an attack. Now the cool thing is both the character and the enemy can use a shield in their defense at any time, whether it's their turn in the combat round or not. A shield can be placed in play as defense to block incoming attack. Now, aside of the symbols, you'll notice that there are gold color symbols, and then everything else is your standard white. Gold represents initiative, so when the tokens are cast, the gold are counted up, and whoever has the highest amount of the gold symbols on the tokens has the initiative and starts the combat round. But when you play solo, if the character you're playing has 2 initiative and your character is showing 2 initiative, always let your character go first. They're the character, but obviously if the enemy you're facing has 3 initiative and you only have 2 showing, at that point your enemy would go first in the combat. So now that you got a brief overview of how the symbols of the combat, let's start the combat round and let's see how it goes. So I'm going to cast out Lord Hawthorne's Ruins. You shake them up in 2 hands and you drop them. And as you can see, I really don't have a lot here. I have nothing here. I have 1 shielded defense and I have this agility. When I play solo, this is how I do it. I'm going to remove this token immediately and use it to flip this token over. And that will be my combat round right there. I will now cast out the enemy's ruins. And as you can see, they have 2 initiative, which is more than mine, a defense, a surge ability, and an attack. So he's going to, at this point, use one of his skulls to attack me, and I'm going to, at that point, assign the shield to block the attack, and both of those come off the board. Now it's my turn again. I have my Warhammer right here, and I'm going to take my turn. And I'll show you how this works. And if you remember correctly, on the character it had your attributes, which is being body, and I refer to as strength, and it's 3. So I'm going to cast this at him for 3 points of damage. And at that point, he's going to cast out the shield to stop the attack. So that was a wash. Now, how I do this solo, as you can see, there's still tokens on the board for the enemy, but all of my tokens are used up. So at that point, I consider the combat round over. First combat round's over, and then I would recast the tokens again. So let's do that and see what happens. So I got a shield, got an axe, which is initiative because it's gold, and I have nothing for there. Not even initiative, just a lost turn. Now I'm going to roll the other sides. They have a double. 2 skulls and 1 gold skull for initiative, plus a double. So I would get to go first in the combat round. So because he doesn't have any shields, right now is my prime opportunity to attack, which I'm going to do. I'm going to use that gold axe again. I get 3 points. And at that point, the sorcerer is going to take 3 points of damage, which he's now half life. So now he started out with 6. Now he's down to 3. But what's going to be bad for me is there's still 2 tokens left on the board, so he gets to attack 2 more times. So when I play this, I always look in the best interest of the enemy as I play it, as I would my character. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cast out 1 skull. And of course, I want to block that damage, so I'm going to assign the shield. And that'll resolve that attack. The shield is now off the board, and the enemy's token is off the board as well. So I have nothing to do this round, but I still have a token on the board, so my enemy will get another chance to go. At that point, my enemy is going to use the double, put the skull on there, and do double damage, and I will take 2 points of damage. Now, if I wanted to, I could have exerted, discarded one of my skill cards to flip that token over. But I didn't want to use that for this demonstration. But that is one of the options that my character has, one of his special abilities. So now in this combat action, we'll start to use his abilities now that everybody has a pretty good idea of how the combat runes work. So now I have this that I can use to flip one of my tokens or one of theirs, and I got a shield, but I have no attacks, which is really not good. So I can do one of 2 things. Use this on my first round to flip that over because I have no initiative. Or I can exert and try to save this to use against my foe and try to flip that one. So I think we'll exert and try to flip that one. So now the enemy will cast their runes. And they have 1, 2. The enemy has clearly won the initiative. And they have a double tap to do for damage. And my enemy's going to go first. And the first thing he's going to do is he's going to attack. I'm going to place the shield, and we're going to resolve that. It's now my turn. And what I'm going to do as my combat action is I'm going to discard one of my skill cards, and I'm going to exert. And by doing that, I'm going to recast this. Oh, it did not work for me, even though I flipped it. It's still... So I lost that for nothing. Now it is my enemy's turn. My enemy's going to put up the double on the skull and do 2 more points of damage to me. So now my character takes 2 more points of damage. So now we're left with 2 tokens, and it's my my turn. So as my combat round, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to flip this over. And that is now off the board. It's now my enemy's turn, and my enemy is going to attack for another point. I have no way to defend myself, so I'm going to take another point of damage. It is now my turn. And I'm going to use that, and along with my 3 strength, my enemy is going to take 3 points of damage, which is going to kill my enemy. Now, I will gain 2 gold as reward for that. And I get to keep the card as a trophy. So let's talk about in the game system how that works. So I have now defeated the sorcerer. I will now gain 2 gold. That'll go to my character. And I can use that to spend in any city to upgrade my weapons and my armor and so on and so forth. But the best thing is I get to keep this now. This is now considered a trophy. And it goes with my character's my character sheet. Now each skill, if you look at them, at the top they will show you how much it costs by these orbs at the top here, if you can see that. Some of them are specific to the card. So this one will cost 2 battles and 2 of any other kind, because the gray means you can spend any trophy you want for a total of 4 trophies to buy this skill if I wanted it. But I have just earned my first trophy, so right now I probably couldn't afford to buy many skills, so I'm just going to let those rest. But the bad thing is, I am wounded and I am going to have to heal. Now, I can choose to rest 1 turn and heal, or I can try to make it to a town, and if I spend a night in the town, meaning if my character's in a town and it progresses another turn, which is considered a night, all of my health points are healed and I'm at full health. But for right now, the battle is over. That was the end of my 3 turns. The quest was completed because I did defeat him. I also get to keep this as a trophy as well. So I have a total of 2 trophies, and the time track advances to the first story card. And let's see what the first story card is. Wisdom of the gods. Compared to the gods, even the greatest heroes are but a speck of dust in a windstorm. Story quest. Place 3 lore on this card. If there is no lore left on this card, remove the story quest token from the board and discard this card. You may spend 1 turn and spend 1 trophy to take 1 lore from this card, and then at the end of that you may train for free, which is very cool. So how this works out is this card will go here to reflect that it is on, at that point, quest number 1 on the board. And I'll move the board down here so you can see what I'm talking about. So this would be quest number 1. And then the location will be right here, which is kind of cool because I'm right there, so I'll be able to get my first lore. This will go up here, and then of course the 3 lore tokens will go with this card. So now I got some decisions to make. I can move over here a couple spaces and grab a lore. I could go to this next mini quest here, or I could try to travel down here to this town to get some healing and upgrade some equipment. But before I do, I have to roll the terrain die and to see which way my character can move. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my first turn in my round to see what is going to be the better of the 2 to do. So I have rolled 2 hills, 2 forests, and 2 plains. I can move here to the next quest. Unfortunately, I don't have a water terrain to cross this river that comes through here. So I would have to go all the way down here to the city, and then come back out the city around this way. So it looks like my choice is pretty obvious. I'm going to go to this next mini quest. So 1, 2. I'm going to flip this over using my last 2 turns to show it's been spent, and draw the card. Okay, I have encountered a Dread Prophet. He's an enemy. He has 5 life. He's a trickster humanoid. If the hero is defeated or retreats from this combat, all heroes become delayed. So in the game term, there's a thing called delayed. And delayed means your character miniature lays on its side. It's unable to move for its 3 turns, and obviously will not be able to engage into combat because it's not enabled to move. But there are certain things your character can do. If your character is, let's say, in a town and delayed, they can still shop and they can still train. But if they're out in the wild, even they won't be able to move, but they could still heal. So they still have options available to them, even if they're delayed. But the character is not delayed at this point. The Dread Prophet, he has a couple of interesting abilities available to him. He can pay 1 surge, which is called Prophecy, and he can recast one of the character's tokens to its opposite side. I'm sorry, he can recast one of the foe's tokens. If it lands on the opposite side, it's removed from that round of combat to where the character cannot use it. If he pays 2 surge, he can do what's called Doom and flip all of your foe's tokens to the other side. So, we're going to square off with the Dread Prophet. And we'll pull this out again. And we'll do some combat. Let's see how that goes. So, I've been rolling really horrible. I got a shield, I have an agility, and I have absolutely nothing and 0 initiative. So let's see what the Prophet does. The Prophet rolls a shield, 2 skulls, a surge, and he also has an initiative. So the bad thing is the Prophet gets to go first this combat round. He's going to utilize his surge, and he's going to recast my shield of defense. And of course, I rolled it back onto the shield, which means it's removed out of this combat round, which is really horrible. Now it's my turn. The only thing I can do is, as a combat action, is I can choose to do a victory strike, and at that point exert one of my skill and try to flip this over to its other side, which I was successful, but that was my combat round. Now it's my enemy's turn, and my enemy is going to attack me for a point, and I will take 1 point of damage. Now it's back to me. It is my turn. And I think for this turn round, instead of attacking right away, I'm going to use my agility to flip his shield over, rendering his defense useless. It goes back to my enemy, who's going to attack me for another point. And I will take another point of damage. Now it's back to my turn. And I'm going to finish my last combat round by attacking him for 3 points of damage. And he has nothing to defend it with, so he's going to take 3 points of damage. And he only has 5 life points, so he's pretty hurt. And that'd be the end of that combat round, and the beginning of a new one. So hopefully I can cast out my combat tokens better this time. Ah, much better. I have all attacks, 2 of which are initiative. That's going to be pretty hard to beat. Let's see what the Prophet does. The Prophet rolls, oh, not good for me, not good for me. He can't attack, but he does have a lot of abilities available to him. But because I have the initiative, I get to go first. So the first thing I'm going to do is cash in one of my attacks. And of course he's going to put a shield up to stop that. And I have reach. Once per combat, after resolving a combat action, you may immediately take another combat action, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to use this one that does double damage. So at that point, he'll receive 6 points of damage and no way to stop it. And at that point, the Dread Prophet is dead. Now my reward, I'll be able to gain 1 lore from this, which is really cool. And that'll help me as furthering through the game to defeat the dragon. And I would place that on my card. And I would keep this as a trophy. And now that quest is done. And at that point, the turn marker advances 1, and it's back to my turn again. So I think what I'm going to do at this point in the game, just to show you guys how this is done, I think I'm going to use 1 turn to try to access this town, Dawnsmore. 3 planes. 1, 2, 3. So I'm outside of it. So I can use a turn to get inside and do some shopping, which I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to roll again. And I have a wild. I move into Dawnsmore. Now, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to train for my last turn. So I'm going to draw 3 cards up to my maximum hand size, including the 1 card I have left. I got bulked up, which will give me 1 extra physical strength. I have a couple of them here to choose from. And if I have the right amount, so I'm going to choose to save these 3 as my skill, discarding this one. And then the first one I'm going to buy, which is called Bulked Up. Bulked Up gives me +1 to my physical strength. And I can use any trophy I want, so I'm going to discard this. At this point, this skill would be attached to my character. He now has a physical or a body of 4, so he'll now do 4 points. And I think for my last one, because I'm not going to be able to afford this one, because I really don't have enough, or the right ones, I'm going to get Cultural Immersion. And once per turn, when you would draw an adventure card, you may draw 1 card from a different adventure deck instead, which is pretty cool. It'll give me some choices. And that's going to cost me 1 of the social and 1 of any color, so I'll use this one. I discard these 2, and at that point I attach that skill to my character, and now my character has that skill. And this skill card turns over at that point by my character sheet. Now my turn will be over. The time track will advance 1 because I spent a night in Dawnsmore. All of my wounds are removed from my character sheet, and he is at full health again. So, I'm going to use 1 turn while I'm in here in Dawnsmore to do some shopping. So I'm going to draw 4 cards from the equipment, turn them over, and see what I have available to me. Well, I can already tell you what I'm going to get. I'm going to purchase Chainmail. So now, these 3 cards will stay with the board at Dawnsmore, and the next time I stop in there, any other character, they will shop from those, and as the cards are used, they are replenished by pulling off the top of the stack. So I'm going to pay my 4 gold, which will leave me with 1, equip my chainmail to my character, then at that point I'm going to go through my tokens, and now my character will have 4 tokens to choose from with battle, and which will give him even more tokens into play, and that's how the tokens build up. As you can see, I started out with 3, I'm now up to 4, plus I built up my physical strength, and now I'm ready. I got 2 turns left, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start heading to this main quest to collect some more lore. So I'm going to roll my movement dice. I have 2 plains and a forest or a hill. So I'm going to be able to use 2 of the planes. So I'm going to go 1, 2. My last turn, I'm going to use my movement dice. And I have 2 more planes. I want to go 1, 2. And for my last turn, right here, I'm going to spend my last trophy, put it right here in the discard pile, and remove 1 lore token from the main quest and place it on my character. Alright, guys. I think you got a pretty good idea of how the game operates and how it runs. It's very unique. Every time you play, you shuffle the cards and everything changes and becomes new again, giving you variable options what to do with your character, how to level them up, and how to use them more to your advantage. And I have to say, I really do enjoy this game. Now, the one thing that will seem kind of weird to people is, you know, the whole entire casting the tokens for battle did seem kind of weird to me at first because I'm used to dice. But once I got used to using that system, it actually is it's a pretty quick system, and it does add a lot of, how do I put this? It does add a challenge into the game, particularly with the enemies and whichever enemies you are fighting, whether they be magic users or strictly melee encounters. But it's a very cool game, and I highly suggest you pick it up. You know, the long, dark, cold months of winter are coming where we're going to be trapped indoors and trying to find stuff to keep us entertained indoors. And maybe this will be a game to keep your interest peaked throughout them long winter months. Just called Runebound. Now, of course, I'm going to leave a copy of the link of this, where to find it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please feel free to crush the like button and subscribe to my channel to see my latest videos as they are released. Alright guys, it's going to wrap it up for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now, why don't you move on and go find some gaming. See you later.